cupcakes in the
Amendment.
break room.
After
I don't like
closed
cupcakes,
session.
but they are there.
You did not like
There's
cupcakes.
chocolate covered pretzels too.
Oh,
To approve.
Do you want?
that, no, I'll look for it later.
No, no, Carrie has also-
Anything with chocolate interests me though.
Chocolate covered pretzels.
They were live tentative agreements.
my weakness too.
FYI.
FYI, be good.
They're taking this all so serious.
Principals, administrative team.
Well, it is.
And,
Hey, Ken, did
Yes,
they
sir.
make a decision, Clayton, yet, Chief? What are they doing?
They're hiring
local
an attorney
3524
firm to find 3 chiefs to do the interviews.
Say abs.
Why don't they just get 3 chiefs? Like
Well,
we
I think we all
don't
agreed,
want that.
I mean, I have a nickel in that
You're-
dime, but
you're gonna
I don't want
have to
anyone
do
from
it
this
after
area.
closed session.
No, but
We're gonna
we've
have
act, you know, we've gone to Ann Arbor and different places and brought chiefs in,
I
bought
agree.
dinner
We're
and,
not doing
Yeah.
isn't that what Monday did?
No, they hired an attorney firm and it cost them almost $10,000.
The attorney firm made a decision?
They picked the
No.
chiefs.
Should be amended.
Yeah, I think we should
You mean
amend it now.
Metro?
And then.
Yeah.
Metro, yeah, whatever you
Have
call
No,
it.
they had 3 chiefs.
After closed
Yeah, they had
Right.
3 chiefs.
So
So it's
Right,
actually
but they hired an attorney firm to do it, cost them almost 10 grand.
Cause you need to be able to see it and ask
$10,000 just to pick the chiefs?
Well, to pick the chiefs who picked the
They
chiefs.
vetted, they vetted the applicants and they set up the interview stuff, yeah, they charged almost $10,000.
I mean, there's a lot of chiefs.
That part didn't make the paper. Taxpayers probably wouldn't like that.
Okay.
That.
Call the meeting to order, please stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. We have a pretty full agenda tonight, so I am going to lead off by turning it over to Mr. Micah for awards, recognitions, and celebrations.
Thank you. I am going to move quickly because of the agenda. I will say that if you'll notice around the boardroom, we just accepted several pieces of art from our elementary schools, and we've kind of tried to update some of the artwork around the boardroom. So you will see that up above. The other thing I would just like to draw attention to, and I think that this is something that we don't often commend our bus drivers enough. We have 12 bus drivers that drove for us all year, and we had several that had to run double runs and things like that. It's hard to find bus drivers, and it's something we're really trying to improve on. But out of those 12 drivers, they had 22 sick days total for this entire school year between those 12 drivers, and 3 of them had perfect attendance. So it's just a really big kudos to them. They're working hard. They deserve more than what they get paid, and they're just a fantastic group of individuals who are committed to the kids. We had many of our bus drivers going into the elementary schools and handing out awards to the kids in their classes for being safe riders and things like that this past week. So this is just something to highlight. So.
Is there something that we can do to celebrate their
Yeah,
attendance
I mean,
and
I just,
commitment?
we just are so surprised by the number. It's very,
It's great.
very good. So
Mhm.
something that we'd like to maybe think about in the
Okay,
future. So,
good.
yeah.
Thank you.
Don't we have something from the board acknowledging them?
We could.
A certificate or something
We
for
could.
the perfect attendance?
Yeah, that would be a
Cause
good
that's
idea.
pretty tough to find.
Yes, it is, especially in today's day and age.
Right.
So, yeah,
Well, let's say nothing went wrong in their family that they took the day off for, they
Mhm.
weren't sick, I mean,
yeah,
that's a lot of stars lining up.
it is very impressive.
Thank you
Mhm.
very much. Okay, going to number 4. Before we go to our consent agenda, we need to amend our agenda. We'd like to add a number 13, a new number 13, an amendment to approve the tentative agreements for the principal's administrative team and local 3524 AFSCME group. So with that change, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
Stacy, Tony, any comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, back to you, Ben.
So it's been a very busy week thus far, and was at a graduation open house recently, and somebody said, "Are you excited that summer's here?" And yes, although it is not really summer for us yet, But I'm excited for a little bit of time in July. But this has been just a great school year. There's been a lot of things that have happened that have been really positive. We've had some bumps in the road, I think. But I think overall we've learned a lot of different things. One of the more recent things that was disappointing was a situation that happened with graduation, which I know that all of you are aware of. We just communicated out. We've been working pretty diligently this past week. We've been meeting with class sponsors, student council officers from the classes of 2019 and 2020. And we are going to be holding our graduation next year at the Birch Run. It's formerly the Birch Run Expo Center. It's now called the Frankenmuth Credit Union Event Center. The rationale for that was laid out in the post and the email, which you'll all get a copy of. But the primary impetus for the change was the community. In a survey, we surveyed our high school parents. Overwhelmingly, they wanted to see a change in venue. 88% asked for a change. Additionally, the students in both class officer groups had asked for a change. We put 6 potential options out there. Overwhelmingly, the Dordt Federal Arena and the Frankenmuth Credit Union Event Center were the 2 top choices. Both of them meet the needs of seating and those types of things, and both of them obviously have ample space for us and parking and all of those amenities. But the cost is about 1/3 of the cost at the Birch Run location. So it's not very far. It's about 10 minutes further drive, but should be a good venue, hopefully, to meet the needs of our constituents. So that's all I'm going to report on right now. I have lots more to talk about, but I know we have a packed agenda. So.
And that notification has gone out or will go out?
The notification went out this afternoon,
Okay.
and you'll have a copy of that as well. So.
Yeah, you had a lot of great comments on that.
Okay, good.
You did, you're very much
That's
there
good.
on Facebook, yeah, you did.
I haven't taken a chance
Very
to
nice.
read them.
So that's nice, just so
You
you
got an
know.
attaboy,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
Good deal.
instead of a
Good.
you know.
That's right.
Well, thank you, and I know that was a tough week
Yeah.
for everybody involved.
Well,
It was
and-
unfortunate, but I'm so happy that you acted quickly.
Yeah, we had to, and part of it is because the dates fill up, and you have a date that you want to secure, you got to get on it quickly. So we were fortunate to be able to do that.
Good. Okay, any questions for Beth? All right, moving on to the board subcommittee reports. I think Stacy, you had academic
Yeah.
achievement, and then you were there for policy as well.
Academic achievement, we went over the Wonders program, grades K through 6. It's a one-time purchase. It's not renewable every year, right, Rod?
Right.
Okay.
There are no consumables.
The program has been at Cyrene Elementary and has had amazing results. This program follows the Common Core standards and aligns with them all. And the teachers have more time to read with their children with this program. This program sets them up for success in the future, such as ELA routines, and it betters our children for their futures. All the elementaries will have this program this next school year. Benefits are that we need consistency with all of our buildings of doing the same thing with all the elementaries. So once they come to the middle school, they will all have the same program that they've worked together, and you'll see the difference in it.
Yeah, one thing to add on to that, there's something called a guaranteed and viable curriculum. And so basically from our seats here at the board table, or my seat as the superintendent, I need to be able to look at a 3rd grade parent from Cyrene and a 3rd grade parent from Elms or Gaines or any other building and tell them that they're gonna get the same quality education regardless of the building they go to. And so one of the things that we have been looking at for a while is our literacy program. And as you know, these 3rd grade reading bills have come through. We knew we had to have something that was consistently applied. Cyrene has seen great results with this. They've been using this the last couple of years, and so we did some training and piloting this year with a couple teachers in each of the other buildings, and they have had a lot of input into this. And so this program will now mean that we have that guaranteed curriculum. Whichever school you go to, it's not like you're missing out on something. So that's going to be important.
Okay, yeah. And the other districts have adopted it, and you said Carmen Ainsworth was one of those.
Carmen Ainsworth is purchasing it this summer.
Yep.
I think one of the other big pieces is that we've been balanced literacy in our K-5 ELA, and we've worked on the workshop model in reading and writing for a long time, and this package actually mirrors those instructional strategies. So it is a specific program mirrored to the instructional strategies that our elementary teachers are already implementing.
And we just went over our policy, and this will eventually come to the board for review and vote. Any questions for Stacy? No?
Did you go over two policies, or did you go from 140 to 8321?
I have written down,
We did, we went
Yeah.
through all
All
of
of
them.
them?
Yeah, we
And
did.
so basically,
we did.
it was our first,
I
it's
have it
gonna
here.
be our next packet. And so the policy committee
wanna peek?
reviewed it.
Mhm.
Okay.
But you're gonna get all of those probably at the July board meeting as a first read, and we'll talk about it. The policy committee will dive into it a little further, and then, won't be approved, those won't be adopted until the fall, probably. So,
Right. Thank you.
yep.
Thank you, yeah.
Very much.
Yeah.
Okay, we did not have any follow-up questions from the last meeting, and no payment of bills for this one.
have
Board
minutes.
discussion, the 2017-18 final budget update.
So I'm gonna ask Stacy to come and give a final update to our budget from 17-18.
Alright, so, our 2017-2018 general fund budget, we started with a beginning fund balance of $2,952,790, which is 7.97% fund balance of all your revenues. There's $37,293,255 budgeted for revenue, expenses of $37,339,305 in expenses, leaving us a projected ending balance, fund balance for this year of $2,906,740, which is 7.79%. We're utilizing, I project we're gonna utilize about $46,000 of our fund balance for this year. Our 2017-18 community service fund had a beginning fund balance of $77,458. They brought in $624,500 in revenue, which about $60,000 of that is from the general fund that needs to cover the community service fund. So total expenses for the community service fund this year was $701,958. Dave Semantic and I have looked at this, and we're coming up with ways to bring in and generate more revenue because they were utilizing their entire fund balance this year. So at the end of June, the community service fund will have a $0 fund balance. 2017-18 food service fund, the beginning fund balance was $498,380. They brought in revenues of $1,339,528, expenses of $1,549,000, which projects them at an ending fund balance of, at the end of this month, of $288,905. We had to spend down that fund balance. The state required us to do a spend down on the food service program. You're only allowed to have so much in your food service fund balance, and if you have too much, the state kind of slaps you on the hand, which happened to us 2 years ago. However, we didn't spend it all by the end of last year, so we had to ask for an extension. So that $498 that we began with this year was still too much. So we've spent that down now that we're out of that bad part that the state doesn't want you in. So our goal going forward is to maintain that $288,000 as the food service fund balance and just keep that there. So we're gonna try to spend as much as we bring in each year and not have that grow so that we're in a problem again. The 2017-18 sinking fund had a beginning fund balance of $1,189,764. Revenues of $1,435,318, expenses of $1,500,830, which is projecting to end this year sinking fund balance at $1,124,252. That is the final amended budget. Those numbers are all in your 17-18 budget resolution. Any questions?
Could you just maybe talk to, this year, obviously, we had a couple big expenditures in the building and also maybe the 3%. Could you
Key
bring-
changes that, cause we added $500,000 to our fund balance last year, Now, all the teachers, got a little bit of an increase with steps for this year, so that salaries increased a little bit from last year. We purchased the Little Dragons Learning Center, and we've started renovations on that, which is, more than $300,000 in this year's, budget that we've spent on that, building. Our 3% ORS refund that we had to pay back to the teachers this year, that was required, when that happened years ago, we did not record FICA expense, we did not pay our employer FICA expense back then, so we're required to pay it this year, which totaled almost $100,000 for that. And the transfer from the community service fund of about $60,000. So that's why we're sitting, with having to dip in a little bit to our fund balance this year, but, next year we are projecting to add quite a bit, so. And when you look at the percentages of the fund balance of how much it's going down, we're going from, 7.97, where we started this year, to 7.79. So our percentage of fund balance, we're not really dipping that much into it, and our goal is to always add to that. But with those things and those changes, we tried to be as conservative as possible, but I am projecting we're gonna dip into that a little bit this year.
Any questions for 17-18?
So on, on the sinking fund, what do we have available for this year to spend?
What do we have for 17-18 or 18-19?
Both.
Well, 17-18 is done. We're not spending any more out of our sinking fund for 17-18. Most of all of those expenses, that went to the sinking fund were done over the summer last year, minor repairs and stuff over the summer. All of the rest of that expense is for the QZAP bond that goes to pay for the cage. So that's all bond payments and interest.
Goes to pay for the PAC.
Or yes, I'm sorry, the PAC, yes, you're right.
And what, and if you don't know the answer, that's fine. The number I'm looking at is what, how much of that was to the PAC? And what was for projects?
I'm thinking we spent, we just reviewed it with RC, so I'm recalling a conversation that RC and I looked at last year, and if I'm recalling it correctly, we spent about $100,000 last summer out of the sinking fund in repairs and maintenance. The rest is for the bond payment and the interest payment on those bonds.
Okay. And so for 18-19,
Yeah.
there's one, for the sake of argument, 1.5 million being spent?
Correct, I'm projecting the same amount. We're gonna, that's what RC and I were reviewing last week, was we're gonna try to keep the same amount that we spent for, repairs and maintenance over the summer paid out of the sinking fund. And our interest and bond payments for next year are about the same as they were this year.
Okay, and the balance will be about 1 million after that?
For next year?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Then, was any money spent on building upgrades or repairs out of the general fund?
Yes.
Do we know how much?
I would have to find that out for you. There's a few general fund lines that I can't pull out.
No,
of my
that's
head.
fine.
Yeah.
I don't expect you to have memorized for crying
Yeah,
out loud.
yeah, I've had
I just felt like you gave me a ballpark figure of 200,000, 300,000, 500,000.
It wasn't that much.
Okay.
But there are, repairs and maintenance in the general fund that we did utilize, but it wasn't $200,000 to $300,000.
Some of the things that probably would be allowable expenditures under the sinking fund, like, for example, we invested some technology money from our technology budget into security cameras this spring. That would be an allowable expenditure under the sinking fund budget, but we actually paid for it out of the technology budget, you know, so it's not, but we could get.
One of the issues that I've had over the years is that we take money out of other lines, whether it's a general fund or, as you just explained, technology, because across the parking lot is bleeding this thing dry. It's one of the problems we have, and it's something we never really chat about. So it would be interesting to see what actually is in building and upgrades from year to year that comes out of the sinking fund, what goes towards the payment on the cage and the PAC, and then where other monies come from throughout the budget, whether it's technology, the general fund, to keep our buildings in repairs, cause that's actually what that 20-year bond was supposed to, or 20-year millage was supposed to do. And now we're gonna turn around, and that's what we're gonna ask a bond for, is basically the same thing that we're doing here. So, I just, if there's a way we could do it, I'd like just maybe the last 2 or 3 years. I'd like to see,
Yeah,
you could even break it down in percentile.
yeah, I can try to
What-
gather that information
Yeah,
for you.
I don't want you to go back any further, but like the last 2 years, I'd like to see 3 years, what was taken from the sinking fund for building maintenance, and then where we took other money from for building maintenance or upgrades.
Yeah.
And like I say, 2 or 3 years would be fine, don't kill yourself for it, but I know the two payments are really easy, the cage and the PAC, those are easy. So, and if you just show me a difference in that balance, then, and what we spent on upgrades, I can do the math, I don't care where it came from. It obviously didn't come out of sinking fund, so that'll save you some work. You can have an overall
Okay.
expense.
Yeah.
Okay, and then these two numbers, and then we can do the math from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
You're welcome.
Anything else, Stacy, you wanna add on the forecast for next year, so the 18-19 budget?
I'm just gonna go over some of your 18-19 proposed resolution is also in your packets for approval tonight. Some of the assumptions that I built into this proposed budget, are 180 days of instruction, a $240 per pupil increase, which has been confirmed at the state that Swartz Creek, not every district will get 240, but Swartz Creek will be getting 240 per pupil increase. I budgeted a blended count of 3,673.36, which is a 70 FTE reduction from last year's fall student count. I increased our retirement rate to 39.27, which captures all of our regular retirement and all of the UAL, and the UAL healthcare pension that we have to pay for. I increased our Public Act 152 healthcare insurance hard cap, and some staffing restructuring within instructional staff and central office staff. So those were the major assumptions that I made for the 18-19 budget. The numbers are there in front of you, but I have us starting at that 7.79% fund balance of $2,906,739 that I'm projecting that we're gonna end this year. And I have us projecting an estimated fund balance at the end of next year of $3,096,808, which is a slight increase, which would put us up to 8.27% into our fund balance. And that's basically it. Any questions on next year's budget?
What are you anticipating our dollar amount that we're gonna add to the fund balance for next
It's
year?
about 180,000, hold on 1 second, I have it right here. $190,069 is what my proposed budget has adding to next year for the fund balance.
And what was that percentile again? 8 point what?
8.27 maybe? 8.27%.
Any other
Any other
questions for
questions?
Stacy? Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And it's just so everybody knows, at 6:15 tonight, as required by law, there was a truth and taxation and budget presentation that Stacy provided to us. And there's a presentation that you could share with board members
Yes.
who weren't able to join
Yes.
us.
I can do that,
Okay.
yes.
But thank you for doing that. Okay. Next, we have the Michigan Treasury bond application discussion.
Okay, so this has been quite an interesting process. So, in terms of what happens when you ask the community for money, it's not just like, and not that we were doing this, but it's not somebody sitting around saying, hey, let's go ask the community for some, $40 million or $48 million. There's actually quite an extensive process that has been gone through. So This started back over a year ago when we did the first comprehensive facility study in about 10 years. I think for those of you that have been on the board a while, you know that that facility study was pretty extensive. We used that input from the contractors, the engineers, and so on and so forth to drive some conversation. We've had a couple bond committee meetings to start to shape the scope. And as I've said before, there is definitely quite a long process that we go through. So anyway, yesterday was a required date, which was the 19th, and there's an application. And if you recall, you made an approval for the district to move forward and prepare everything we needed to prepare for that application. We've completed that. It's well over a couple hundred pages long. It gets into a lot of detail in terms of involving the contractors. Woolgas and E&L were there to provide some support for that, as well as NJB Architects. The meeting was actually at the state of Michigan at the Treasury Department, and so we go in and there's actually an official at the Treasury Department who has to review the application. So we reviewed the application, and essentially we have to come back tonight, which is the 20th, where you actually approve us to now submit the application. So we've completed the application, you gave an approval there, you now have to approve for us to submit the application. Once we submit the application, we will have some preliminary bond language that we will adopt at our next board meeting, which is the 18th of July, where we would actually have some proposed language to call, it's called calling the election. And at that time, you would actually make a formal motion to move towards the ballot. So all these steps, and I gave you a sheet in your packet here just so that you can see the process. We have been already heavily involved in this process, but I wanted you to know we just had our first meeting down at the State Treasury Department for that.
What came of that review? Was it positive, negative?
It was very positive. They look at things, for example, they're wanting to see, okay, are you asking for a bond when your facility usage maybe is at 50%? So you might say you were a district and we want to just do an addition onto a building, and the building's only at 50% capacity. The Treasury Department does not look fondly on that. And so you have to provide some rationale. Our overall district building usage is over 80%. I think we're at 82%. They like to see it above 60%. The only building that we had that was even close to 60% was the Gaines building. All of the rest of our buildings, Moorish, Elms, and the high school, I believe, were in the close to 90% usage. So, and the others were all in the 70s and 80s. So that is just one example of many where they go through a series of questions, and it's pretty extensive, and they want to, get details on, the scope and that. They're actually going to come back out, likely before we even get too much further down the road and do a site visit and walk around. So there's a lot of checks and balances to that, which is good. We're happy that that's there, but it's just a process that we've been going through. So
What are they coming to see?
So Treasury's going to come out. They said the last time that we went to Treasury was 2007 for that last proposal. Before that, I believe it was 2003, and that was the last time they'd been in the district. So they said, because we haven't been there in quite a while, we'd like to come back. So they're going to come back, and they said that what they'll probably do is pick a morning or an afternoon. They'll let us know, and then they basically want to go around and see the areas that we're talking about doing renovations to. And so they come along. I would actually think it would be kind of an interesting experience for any of you, any board members that would like to be a part of that site visit. I think that could be kind of a neat learning experience if you're interested, if you would like to be there. As soon as we get a date, I'd be happy to include you in that. So, but we will have some bond language when we call for the election, and I will get that to you in advance, well in advance of that meeting, so that you're not making a decision the night of, so you'll be able to see that in advance before we move that to a vote. So, just trying to update you on the process for that. We do have to actually now take action to submit the application, and then the next step, of course, is.
But when do you think you'll have that language ready? Because that's less than a month at this point.
I think we'll have it within the next couple weeks. Yeah. I think even within the next week I can get it to you. So yeah, we work with Troon. And a little bit of a comment on the language of the proposal. Some attorneys in some districts, and Stacy can kind of fill you in on my response back to Troon on this, they want to keep the language as broad as possible, and so they make it very short. And it's basically like, we can do anything we want with this money. I explain that we don't want that. We want to be very specific with the things we want to do, within reason. I mean, obviously you can't say we're going to put this ceiling tile in here. I mean, but in terms of the projects and the scope of it, ours is a little bit longer as they're preparing it than probably a typical school district, because we want to be very clear, as many of you have expressed, and I know, we've had some conversations too, about whatever we put on the ballot is what we're going to stick to, we have to stick to, and we need to be very clear with the community on what this scope is, and what it is what we need to do. And so I think we just need to continue to be very clear and transparent about that. And so the language has to be a little bit longer to include all of the different potential projects that would be included in this bond. And so that's something that is also taking a little bit, but we'll have something to you within the next week or so, because they're pretty close already on the actual ballot language. So you'll have it well in advance of the July 18th board meeting. So.
Who provides us with the calendar?
This is from Troon. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but we have multiple partners. So Troon is our counsel, and Christopher Imarino is the person who does the majority of the bonds around the state for the schools. And he's very adept at this, so he's our counsel for this particular part of the project. We also have PFM, who is a financial company who they deal with the bonding side and helping us be able to get accurate information on when we go to talk to our taxpayers and our community members and say, in an informational campaign, this is what this levy would mean to you in terms of price or annual increase in their taxes. PFM can provide those down to a T, and actually what they do that's very nice is they have calculators that they provide so that community members could go in and say, okay, based on my homestead tax credit exemption and any other factors I have, I can specifically pinpoint what this would mean for me in terms of an increase in my annual taxes. PFM is very instrumental in that. And then of course, we already introduced you to Wolgas and E&L, and they're gonna be instrumental in making sure that bids are done properly, the project is managed properly, that all of those components on the front end and back end of the project are done according to the law, and that's what those partners are for. That's what they do. So that's kind of putting all the team together. This comes from Troon.
Thank you.
And they set up these dates and also get us the appointments at Treasury and all of those other types of components. So.
Any questions for Ben? Okay. Moving on, we have the superintendent contract discussion.
So in your board packets, you have a copy of my employment contract. I briefly mentioned this at our last meeting. The contract that you have in your packet for me is the exact same contract that you approved when I started just a little over 18 months ago. And so, yeah, that's right there. So what you'll notice is that my compensation, I'm proposing, I'm asking, I should say, for a contract extension You'll notice that my compensation and all of the other fringes that are laid out in my contract are exactly the same as they had been when I started. So there's no change in my compensation, no change in my fringes or vacations. The only change was that we have not renewed my contract, and so I'm now getting to the point where I'm at about a year and a half to 2 years left, and I would be asking for a 4-year contract, which would mean that I would be getting a 2-year extension to my current contract without any compensation change. So, I just wanna make sure you could ask any questions about my contract.
We would still do your evaluation at the end of the year, the calendar year.
Yep, as we had discussed at my last evaluation, we would do my evaluation still in December. Tonight, when we go into closed session, we will do it's somewhat informal, but it's called a mid-year review. It's required by law to basically review my performance, and then we would do a formal evaluation in December, which would give anyone who is an outgoing board member the opportunity to still participate in that. And I think we talked about, anyone who's outgoing has worked with me the longest, so somebody coming in new would not necessarily have the same experience as working with me at that point, so.
Any
Any other
questions?
questions?
So you just want this to run through June of 22?
Yes.
Okay. Vote on that now or later?
We'll vote on that in action items.
So later.
Sorry.
Okay, here we go, yes. Under number 9, board actions, we have before us the 2017-18 final budget update that we, the amendment that we need to vote on. I need a motion that we adopt the 2017-18 amendment as proposed. That's the document that you have here. So I do need a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Brian, Stacy? Any comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, subsequently, we have the 2018-19 proposed budget. I would need a motion that we adopt the 2018-19 budget as presented, and that's the document that's also in your packet.
So moved.
Support.
Tony, Brian, any comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, and I wanna thank Stacy again. This is a lot of work. It's well presented, and thank you so much. Appreciate that. Taking good care of our finances. Next, we have the Michigan Treasury Bond Application Approval. Where's that document? That's just what we talked about.
Yep.
Okay, so we just went over that with Ben. We don't have any other documents other than the calendar that he presented. I do need a motion.
So moved. Support.
Tony and Tony, any comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, go forth, Ben. Annual renewal of non-union administrator contracts approval. Did you wanna?
Yeah, I have a
talk about
couple
that?
comments on this. So, those were in your board packet. I will just let you know, I did talk to a few of you on the phone this past week. The contracts, we used our legal counsel to create a situation where we're better protecting the district in terms of a contract that meets all the letters of the law. And some of our existing administrator contracts, while I don't wanna say they didn't meet the letter of the law, they were, I would say, incomplete. So these contracts, what you'll notice is they look a little bit different than what you've seen in the past. They are a little bit more lengthy, as we obviously have had the laws and things change over that. In terms of compensation for the non-union administrators, there's no major changes in any of them, with 2 exceptions. One is that there is a new person that we have a contract for, and that's R.C. Hunt. And the reason that that happened is because he has been moved out of the principal's administrative team. So that was a negotiated item. And so he has a individual contract at this time, and that's here. Christy Moore has already had an administrative contract with us as the office manager and overseeing our payroll department. But with several shifts in central office responsibilities, she's gonna see an increase in her wages as well. But other than that, they're there for your review, and you'll be able to, take a look at those.
So with that, I would entertain a motion to approve these as a group.
So moved.
Support.
Brian, Tony, any comments or questions? Hearing none. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, going on to our favorite superintendent. We have before us our superintendent contract approval. I need a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Stacy, Tony, any comments or questions?
Good, no.
Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I just wanna thank Ben for all of the work
Yeah.
that he's done, and,
Thank you, that means the
Yes.
world, and
it's much noticed and appreciated.
I really,
It's a common world.
I love it here, and I appreciate all the support that each and every one of you bring to me, and this is a great community and great staff to work with, and I've been blessed, and so I appreciate it very much.
And we are all blessed as well.
So much. It's been very.
All right, going on to K-5 Reading Wonders, the curriculum approval. I need a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Stacy and Tony, any comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It would pass, and it sounds like a great program. I look forward to learning more about it. Okay, now we have the opportunity, number 10, for public comments. If anybody would like to address the board, please stand, state your name for our secretary. Anybody? This is too easy.
Well, I could mention, I'm Linnea from the Swartz Creek View, you guys know me. Tuesday at noon at the American Legion, the Chamber of Commerce is having their Stars Awards luncheon, and it's a fundraiser for the school's supplemental food program.
Oh, great.
So we're gonna have a silent auction, 50-50 raffle, cornhole games, things like that, so if you wanna come on down, bid on some
It's lunchtime, and the time frame is
noon
Noon.
to like, well, we try to get everybody out by, between 1 and 1:30.
okay.
And you said it's where, I'm sorry?
American Legion.
Oh, okay. This, the 26th?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. That was very kind of you. All right, anybody else?
I'm Alicia Gardner. I actually have a quick question. I was glancing through your email from previously today regarding the graduation venue. Do we have a contract or a length of, like, how many years we're gonna be utilizing that facility?
Well, we've learned,
Okay.
and so we have.
I was glancing through, I'm like, I don't know if that was in there or not.
We have a 1 year.
Okay.
And we're gonna go year to year until we feel confident that it's gonna be a good fit long-term. This venue is, obviously with the cost and everything, we wanted to lock that in, and they had said to us that they significantly slashed their prices for schools, cause it's a venue that they do. So Clio has been doing their graduation there for a while, and so we're in a 1-year contract with them at this time. So, yeah, it's a good question.
With that being said, so then is the plan to actually experience graduation obviously next year, but then you're gonna have to be on the wall to be able to.
What we will be able to
Secure.
do, and this is kind of a nice feature, they said you don't have to sign the contract, but you can pencil in dates.
Oh, okay.
So we're already looking out 2 years ahead to pencil a date in, and then as soon as we go through the experience and it's satisfactory to everybody, we would sign the contract again. So, yeah.
Excellent.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you for asking that, appreciate it. Anybody else?
Yeah, Avery Monk. I just wanna say on the whole graduation thing, I didn't have a graduate there, I was there, it was a beautiful ceremony, by the way. Everything was great, I think as everybody knows, there was a backlash afterwards, but it was handled very well. all the people that started saying things, a lot of people commented on an aspect, I know I've talked to a couple of you about, is, you know, blaming, somebody wants to blame somebody somewhere. And I was surprised, because it was my feeling as well, who is to blame is the people that snuck in, the people that called, people that were at the Sloan. We tried to do something nice for the community and have people there. And people were calling from the Whiting over the people at the Sloan and telling them to come over, they're not checking tickets. But it was very interesting that a lot of people posted the same kind of comments, that, and it kind of took the heat off. Obviously, it's not your fault, it's not the Whiting's, well, kind of the Whiting fault, but, you know what I'm saying, if we didn't have that influx of people there already, or people making extra tickets that I've heard, those kind of things. So I think real quickly, a lot of people kind of put it to the back burner because they realized placing blame wasn't really the problem, that we kind of did it to ourselves, those people that were sneaking in there. But the way it was handled so quickly and that your resolve was happening, people are very happy with it.
Good.
Like as Stacy said earlier, the comments on Facebook, positive, you know, great communication, you were on it, you handled it quickly, you addressed it quickly. I mean, the next morning you were already letting people know the issues were out there. But I think a lot of people have stepped back and looked at the whole picture, you know, not really placing blame, but really, okay, some people screwed up, some people shouldn't have been there, that were really there. But in hindsight, now that people are looking at it and the resolve is there, they're very positive about it. And it's the first time in a long time we've had an issue so massive that was handled so quickly and with good resolve, and that's nice. It's nice to see that people as a community are seeing the other side of it. And so thank you for handling it so quickly as well, that it wasn't something that dragged out, or there are no answers or no response to it.
Thank you very much.
And I have every confidence that going forward, it will be as nice an event as possible, no matter where we have it. But I'm so happy with you that it was resolved quickly. And I want to thank you because I know you got right on that.
Well, I think we have to be very, and you know, to just piggyback on that, I think our role, I mean, I know each and every one of you view your role as serving our community and serving our children, and I mean, my role is the same. So I think we need to be in tune with what our community's feedback is and seek that out, and so I appreciate you acknowledging that.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Any comments or questions from the board?
Yes, so I'd like to piggyback on that. You did a good job. I think you put a fire out pretty quick, and I do think that I try to look at the entire picture, and I think that we need some things done different from our staff. Obviously, if we could have had some people out there monitoring that, it may have been able to handle differently. And you know, something that I thought about in the past, and it's not an issue there, but I don't know how this venue is going to set up. But you know, we sit here and we hear from parents and we hear from ourselves about school safety. And one of the things that always amused me the most, and mind you, I love the Whiting, but one of the things that amused me the most is we left children lined up down a driveway, down Kersley Park Boulevard, with no supervision. They were free to do whatever they wanted. Every staff member, not faulting the staff members, but every staff member was up near the door. They pretty much have always been. And that's something that, I guess, looking back on it now, probably wasn't the smartest or the safest. And it was this year that I thought about it the year before, but this year I really gave it some thought, because I kind of saw the behavior of the people that were angry, which I don't blame them. I'd have been furious too if I had not gotten to see my kid graduate. But that's something that I think going to an indoor facility will be better, because at least we have everyone indoors again. And but yeah, you did a great job with that. And
can I say one thing?
Sure.
I don't want to take your time, but to piggyback on that, you and I had that conversation that last week, shortly after it all happened. And it was really, I'm appreciative of that feedback, because at the new venue, there's actually a whole nother space that's actually equally as large. There's two large areas, and so where we'll hold the actual graduation is separate. And so actually all of the graduates and the band and everybody else in preparation will be able to be over in that other area, which can be supervised and then enclosed, so we don't have people outside. So that was very helpful feedback, because it put a different perspective on looking at a venue and saying, is there a place where they're not wrapping around the building? So
and I you know, and I never really gave it thought, 'cause I think this is our 4th year there,
Yeah.
and I never gave it a lot of thought. My stepdaughter graduated in 16 from there, and I never thought anything of it.
Yeah.
But, and not saying the kids are gonna misbehave, but they're around the corner with no supervision.
Yes, you do.
And, you know, it's more than just a safety issue, so, but I think you did a great job with that. And yes, the behavior of people that snuck in and created tickets and whatnot, you know, I think we were our own worst enemy as adults as well. So, you know, good job with that. And the other thing, I called the other day, I left Ben a message, and I deliberately called after hours so he wouldn't answer the phone. And I left him a message, the day after school got out, for a great year. And I did, I think overall we had a really good school year. We had a lot of, positive feedback from staff, and I think you've done some great changes in the last year. And I expressed that to you, and I think we expressed that here, and I think everyone would agree, that you've done a good job. And, you know, and we had some interesting discussions over a couple topics over the year, but they were handled with no one getting mad and anything else, you know, and I appreciate that. That's not always been the norm.
I appreciate you being a straight shooter.
He's outgoing, remember?
Yes.
Okay.
You said he was the
You sell
outgoing board member.
it, you sell it however you guys want to. But anyhow, no, I did, I thought, you know, I was thinking, I'm like, man, this guy has had a really good school year. And so I left him, and he sent me a text, you know, thanks a bunch and blah, 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 blah. But I wanted to say that again, just so that, you know, I guess everyone hears it, because I don't think anyone can disagree with that.
No,
Agreed.
no, and I wanna piggyback on that, just to say that same thing through the year. I think that you came into a storm, and I think that you have done immensely well at calming that storm. You're a very great person, you stay calm, you handle things very well, your perseverance is great. And you're on top of everything, and you get it done, and you do it with grace and love and kindness, and yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
a wonderful person, and I'm very proud to work with you.
I just want you to know I didn't ask for this.
No, I'm just saying, it's just
No, if I thought you did a bad job, I'd tell you that too. I don't care.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
She's a straight shooter. No, just seriously though, it's just, it shows.
Thank you.
So,
I appreciate that.
yeah.
Absolutely. Appreciate that.
I think you're the epitome of a worm demander.
Wow, that's a big
Oh,
one.
yeah.
That's a good one. Brian, you?
I can't say it anymore, what's already been said, but we did have a lot of storms. And the way you attended to them, the way you handled them, your perseverance, your patience,
Changed
has been
us.
amazing. Has
Well, you've
been
made us
amazing.
better people, I think.
Even this last one, I thought we were gonna have a packed house tonight coming in here. And it just, there's a calm, just like Stacy said.
It's fixed.
You did.
It's
You're
fixed.
smart.
It
People
didn't.
wanna be heard and listened to, that's what they want.
Yep.
Well, and it didn't have an opportunity to fester. It was listened to, it was addressed, and it was corrected. Now we just have to hope that the correction's really a
Yeah,
good one.
exactly.
But at least we've tried.
Right.
You know, we listened to what people had to say. I think you said 88% of the people want a different venue. They've got it. Now we can only cross our fingers that this one works. You know, it's like I told you on the phone the other night. I said, I'm not gonna be here next year for this. I said, whatever you decide, I'll yes, sir. Because it's not gonna be my fight next year. But, so I agree with whatever you did. But I think it's what people asked for, and you gave it to them. So that's great.
Well, and I do think for me, you made me a better person for being on here, so I appreciate that.
And I don't wanna leave Rod out. Rod, thank you.
That's right. I'm a warm demander.
You're a warm demander as well. And you've done an amazing job.
I told the principals that today.
Yeah.
What'd you tell them?
That I was a warm
That he's a
demander.
warm demander as well. And Stacy, thank you so much. Christy, Joanne. You guys are amazing. It's just,
Oh, my
it's
goodness.
a wonderful place to be, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stick around. After we get out of closed session, Ben's gonna walk on water.
Oh, he must have a train of
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
You don't wanna miss this.
My wife's gonna kill me after this meeting.
No,
If
honey.
they only knew the real.
Honey, watch the video.
I think we can't top that one. So, with that, we have a need to go into closed session for purposes of collective bargaining and superintendent evaluation. I need a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Stacy, and, is that a toss-up?
There was a tie. Who you picking?
Brian. And so, and so,
Whatever.
Joanne, if you would do a roll call vote, please.
Age before beauty.
Oh, dang.
Yes.
I'm fine with that, Ken.
Tony?
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Tony?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, no.
So we will go into closed session, after which we will reconvene because we have one more item on our agenda. So we are going into closed session at 7:56.
And I have a
Oh,
piece
no,
of
let's
paper.
take a 5-minute break, sorry.
Oh.
We're gonna leave now.
I have a piece of paper to write comments too.
Thank
Am I signing the right one?
Thanks, Joanne.
Well, it must be.
Bye, guys.